Hi there, my name is Jane Haig, and this is the fourth or fifth of our series using the book Bible Women. And I'd like to introduce you to B.J. Davidson, who is our guest interviewee. B.J., tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm B.J. Davidson, and I'm not from Maryland. I was born in West Virginia and came here as a teacher. Used to teach phys ed and biology in high school at St. Michael's High School.
Wow.
And then, after I got married and had children, I didn't want to coach teams because that takes a lot of extra time. So I went into elementary education in substitute teaching.
Wow.
And I finished up in Anne Arundel County in that.
Wow.
And enjoyed it very much.
And you happened to marry a man who lived on a dairy farm just down
Right.
from the church.
Right. Right. He didn't go to church much, but he was baptized and married in the church. Yep.
So were you married at St. Margaret's?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
How many?
He took me to church and introduced me to the priest, and we had our little talk, and was married there in June in 54.
54. Wow, so you would have been married
61 years.
61 years. But he didn't go to church, but you sure did. So there you go.
But he let me go. That's the good part. And he did lots of things around the church that I couldn't do.
Right. Did he build the altar in the conference room?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was renowned for his bowls.
Yeah.
They were beautiful, beautiful bowls. Yeah.
He liked wood turning.
Mm-hmm. He was what did he do professionally?
Engineer.
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 Okay, sorry, we're not going to talk about Clark Davidson anymore. I apologize.
Oh, heck.
Today we have three women who have quite a story to tell. Let's start about Tamar. Tamar, if nothing else, was the only woman to seduce her father-in-law. Read what you want about her on page 65. But she did something kind of gross.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
But to me, I got a little soft spot in my heart for her because she tricked her nasty old father-in-law into letting her have her children, in essence, his children as well. What would you think? I mean,
yeah, she was very, she knew what she wanted and she went after it.
yeah, whichever way that, and so she tricked him into thinking she was a prostitute.
Right.
Even though his son, her husband, had died, and then the second son had died, she still wanted to have that son in his line. So it was, yeah.
There was a younger one, but he was too young.
He was too young.
Yeah.
And by the time he grew up, she was going to be too old.
Right.
So,
she took things in her own hand and to get a son from that line.
Do you admire her?
No, it's hard for me to admire her because I'm very old-fashioned.
What do you think she could have done?
Waited for the boy to grow up.
You were about to tell me why you thought that she her choice to seduce her father-in-law was immoral.
But was it back then? We weren't told that much about what that group did.
Whether it was immoral or
Yes.
not. I think for most of the women we've talked about, having a male child in that family line was so important
That was the most, yeah.
that you did extreme things in order to do that.
Yeah.
But my heart breaks for these women that
Yes.
you know, there you are, a young widow, and she hasn't got much other choice.
Not much left.
No. Thank heavens. Some of us, as we were talking about it this morning, and our perspective has changed. That
True.
from a woman's stand, we find some things just inexcusable.
Mm.
And yet back then it could have been custom.
That's right. I don't know.
I think that's, in a way, God's working, that we find that gang rapes and rape and everything else are inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, who knows? So then we have, so Tamar gets pregnant with her father-in-law's seed, and then we have the midwife. And this is the second midwife we've talked about in 4 weeks. I mean, it's one of the very few professions that has a viable use. I mean, we've had a lot of these women who run around trying to give birth to a male child.
That's
But the
right.
midwives are the ones that sort of come to help.
Yes.
And in this case, once again, we have twins. And the twins, anyway, the firstborn of male twins are important, and she's tied a red ribbon around the wrist of the male child, and then he pulled it back into the womb, and the second child was born. I kind of missed why that was but it was important to Tamar to know which one was the firstborn, but it was again switched.
That's right.
But again, midwives offer consolation, comfort. Who was going to be by her side at that point? Certainly not the father of her child, because he, in essence, felt like he'd been tricked. The third woman we talk about is Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife is the one who tries to seduce Joseph.
Joseph. Yeah.
I was reading about it this morning, that Joseph had two choices, really. Joseph could have said yes to Potiphar's wife,
Mm-hmm.
or he could have done what he did, which was say no, and then get accused of it. Sometimes when you're faced with a decision like that, there doesn't seem to be a good answer.
No.
I mean, if he had said yes and lay, or whatever the verb is, with Potiphar's wife, he was still doing what he was accused of doing when he said no.
That's right.
And so, I don't know, the way I walked out of that was to think, when you have a choice that you don't know which is the right one, the integrity of who you are is the most important thing.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. If nothing else, he had his sense of dignity and pride, because he had done the right thing, even if he was accused of doing the wrong thing.
Right. He had still obeyed God.
So we talked, what do you think God's will was that? And you asked a question this morning that what is our lesson? What is God's lesson to us for any of these three women? Yeah, come on, BJ. What is God's lesson? You got Tamar, you got the midwife, and then you got Potiphar's wife. And I hate to think that the one who's got the best lesson is Joseph the man, but
well, they were doing what they thought they should do. And I don't know what they wanted was, to me, not right. But I understand it from their generation. Because we look at things sometimes in a different way and feel things in a different way. We have quiet strength